to all of you on this program. आप सभी का स्वागत और अभिनंदन। तम सो मार्ग जो तिर्गम है। हम ये आशा करते हैं कि हम अज्ञान से ज्ञान की ओर अग्रसर हों। Let us begin today's auspicious event with the praise of the most merciful and the most benevolent God. We begin with the lighting of the lamp ceremony. जैसा कि हम सभी जानते हैं कि हर शुभ प्रोग्राम की दीप प्रज्वलन से हम शुरुआत करते हैं. I request our esteemed dignitaries to light the lamp of knowledge.
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
Remembering 50 years of the Department of Science and Technology and what has been its journey, challenges, and the numerous achievements and enormous success. To talk on this and more, we have with us two very esteemed panelists and speakers today. Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, and Dr. V.K. Saraswat, eminent scientist and member of Niti Aayog. Namaste and welcome to both of you. An ongoing pandemic of unprecedented proportions, COVID-19, has impacted lives. Sir, we can. Has impacted lives and livelihoods across the globe. Even as the best minds in the world race towards finding solutions and combating this virus, the current crisis has been an eye-opener for many of us. We can hear you, sir. Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has made a clarion call for an Atmanirbhar Bharat or a self-reliant India. November has been the cruelest month, friends, in the capital, as the day after Diwali saw it suffering the most polluted air in the capital. In this week also, perhaps we've seen the worst COVID spike experienced in any city so far. 8 months on, the third COVID peak in, the tragedy teaches us lessons that need relearning. Today, we look at such questions and insights with our esteemed panelists. I would like to first welcome Shri Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology. He has been the founder of the Center of Nanoscience and Center for Advanced Imaging and Chairman of Chemical Engineering and Center for IIT Kanpur. He is a recipient of many scientific awards and honors, including the Infosys Prize in Engineering and Computer Science, the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, the Distinguished Alumni Award of IITK and Sunny Buffalo, and honoris causa from several universities in India and abroad. He has helped initiate several new programs related to infrastructure and human capacity building, innovation and startups, R&D in advanced manufacturing, waste processing, clean energy, and cyber physical systems. Industry, academia, cooperation, science communication, women scientists, and major international collaborations in areas of the priority for the nation. We welcome you, sir. It is my pleasure today to welcome amidst us Shri Vijay Kumar Saraswat, India's most gifted scientist and an accomplished researcher with more than 4 decades of experience spanning over several fields and areas in both basic and applied sciences of defense research. Apart from being a scientist, he's a rare combination of an innovator, technologist, and a visionary. During his illustrious career, from scientist to scientific advisor, Shri Saraswat has been credited with the development of the liquid propulsion rocket engines and missiles, namely Prithvi, Dhanush, Prahar indigenously. He is the principal architect of the ballistic missile defense program, which included major technology breakthroughs. He is the recipient of many national and international awards, including Padma Bhushan in 2013, Padma Shri in 1998, Vikram Sarabhai Memorial Award from Indian Science Congress in 2011, the Lifetime Achievement Award by Ramakrishna Vivekananda International Foundation, New Delhi, and many more. It is my privilege today to welcome you, sir. Namaste and welcome again. I now request Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, to share his vision of the Department of Science and Technology and the milestones achieved so far. Sir.
Thank you, Nidhi. Namaskar to everyone who is listening to us. Of course, a 50-year journey of a department like the Department of Science and Technology is not easy to sum up in 45 seconds. So I would just talk about some of the critical key issues. First of all, let me welcome Dr. Saraswat, a very deep mind in science, technology, and its use indeed, and that he has been extremely helpful in making several programs, futuristic technology programs of Department of Science and Technology. Now, in this 50th year of Department of Science and Technology, there is a new Science, Technology and Innovation Policy 2020, which is shaping up very rapidly. It has consulted over 100,000 people from all walks of life, all stakeholders of science and technology. And indeed, Dr. Saraswat has been a strong pillar going forward of a very compelling science and technology policy for the nation. So I would just kind of bring out 2 or 3 issues from that policy, which are indeed of critical importance for DST, but indeed for all ministries as well as the nation at large. The first one of them is related to, well, how do we empower our industry to be more interested in research and development and knowledge in order to generate new opportunities for themselves and for the nation. Many important things have happened. As we know that today, uh, anything less than 200 crores, we do not float global tenders. And so what that means is a huge opportunity for the Indian industry to come up rapidly, to make products, to make technologies, to be Atmanirbhar. So one of the key concepts of the new policy going forward is the 3 strands, which is called triple helix of the industry, academia, and the government working together in order to make everything possible with the speed and scale. The second aspect is related to diversity, inclusion, and equity. Clearly, there has to be a democratization of science so that the maximum number of people can actually participate in it, can benefit from it, but at the same time benefit both science and the society with the knowledge that they acquire. The third aspect, very quickly, I would point out, is to be future ready. Now, in the past, many times we missed many good opportunities. And to just give you one very strong example, we missed the bus on semiconductor processing and microelectronics when it started. And so that today it becomes very difficult to be Atmanirbhar in that particular sector. Um, we don't want that to repeat in the future. So there are several new technology missions which are in the offing. The first one of them started last year, which is on cyber physical systems. As we know that cyber physical systems is convergence of everything physical, digital, cyber. We call it by many different names. It's all pervasive. We call it artificial intelligence. We call it machine learning, robotics, Industry 4.0. All of that is going to have widest footprint and impact on every aspect of our life going forward. So we need to develop that capacity and capability for the challenges and opportunities that are coming at us at faster and faster rate. And of course, Professor Dr. Saraswat had championed that particular cause and the formulation of that mission in a very large measure was because of his insights. The mission is rolling very well, and so that this would go all the way from basic R&D to technology development, to human resource development, to translational and applied aspects, to incubators and startups. as well as the research parks. So essentially, just to point out one very basic theme in science and technology today is that we ought not to work in silos of, oh, here is the basic research, here is applied research, here is technology, here is incubation, and all of them basically work separately. That's not the best of the systems. So essentially, idea is to fuse all of them and give flexibility to our scientists in order to be able to do things at globally competitive pace and quality. And there are other missions which are in the offing, for example, quantum technologies, for example, electric mobility and storage, and so on. So I just want to say that, look, I mean, that we have to be entirely future ready, and that our processes and architecture and structure of doing science must match the speed at which technologies are evolving. Sometimes we call them exponential technologies. So the linear processes of the government, the linear processes of doing science would not be able to match up with the march of technology in space. That's basically what we want DST to work on very strongly in the years to come. Thank you.
थैंक यू सर, बहुत धन्यवाद आपका फॉर शेयरिंग योर फ्यूचरिस्टिक विजन ऑफ डीएसटी। और आपने जैसे कहा, हम सभी ये मानते हैं, जैसे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री ने कहा है कई बार, कि एक सरकार निर्भर भारत से एक आत्मनिर्भर भारत की ओर भारत को अग्रसर करना है, और यही डीएसटी का मैं मानती हूँ असली विजन है। यहाँ पे मैं आग्रह करती हूँ, निवेदन करती हूँ, I request our keynote speaker for today, Shri V.K. Saraswat ji, to please share his views on the topic for today, friends, which is on the other side of the pandemic. Sir.
Hello.
Sir, I request you to share your keynote speech, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think after listening to Dr. Ashutosh Sharma all about the science and technology, I thought I'll spend some time on the topic which is there today for our discussion, which is on the other side of the pandemic. All of you know that during this pandemic, a great deal to the COVID-19 pandemic has happened. Some of us have lost loved ones, some have suffered debilitating illness, and some have lost livelihoods. So all of us have had the well-established rhythms of our personal and professional lives, which got abruptly altered. So this COVID-19 will have profound long-term consequences for the reallocation of jobs, workers, and capital across farms and locations. The pandemic has also halted our normalcy and dropped us in unknown waters, with our global economy coming to an abrupt halt. Almost every angle of business has been altered and affected. Schools, workplaces, shops, and cafes have closed their doors across the world, and the impact on businesses has been astronomical. The principal benefit of the pandemic is that it has given many of us permission. Actually, it has compelled us to re-examine some of our fundamental assumptions about organizational norms and what practices one should follow. It has also forced us to make a remote workforce a reality. It has proven that geographically distributed teams can, when led properly, outperform the traditional in-person office environment. It has also caused managers to relearn that their essential responsibility is communicating clearly to the remote teams they were leading. The necessity of a distributed team has taught us to fully embrace the capabilities and drawbacks of modern communication systems, and along with them, cloud-based team productivity tools. Just now, 5 minutes back, we also struggled to establish ourselves in communication. The pandemic has taught us that our reflexive instinct for business travel is not an essential as we once believed. Many of us have been amazed at how effective remote customer relationship management and sales can be. And pandemic has taught us that distance education, remote proctored exams, and virtual meetings can be highly effective in delivering the value and building member affinity. Paradoxically, we are finding that organizations that pivot to virtual events can often improve their margins by eliminating travel, housing, and event management costs. The rise of digitization has been a key component in not only overcoming COVID 19, but our mantra of self reliance. Digitization will play a crucial role in the post pandemic recovery by significantly boosting e commerce, which implies a fairer competitive playing field for producers around the world. The healthcare and pharmaceutical sectors are expected to thrive in the post pandemic economy as people become more aware of the importance of health and fitness. Every crisis contains great opportunities, and the COVID 19 pandemic is no different. It offers developing countries nothing less than the chance to reinvent and reboot their economies and to shake off the disabling legacy of external aid and dependency on outside world. India is no exception to that. This pandemic has brought telehealth from the periphery to center. We have been forced to rethink the physician's waiting room with its clustering of ill patients awaiting care. I've heard many patients express amazement at the efficiency and effectiveness of their telehealth experiences. I can also mention that telehealth and telemental health are here to stay and will catalyze professional associations. The outbreak certainly has presented fresh challenges to the Indian economy, causing severe disruptive impact both on demand and supply side elements. Demand side elements, you can have effect on tourism, hospitality, aviation, and so on. Financial markets having uncertainty about the future course and repercussions of COVID 19. It has also made the financial market extremely volatile, leading to huge crashes and wealth erosion, which in turn is impacting consumption and travels. Supply side impact is certainly shutting down of factories, delay in supply of goods, lack of liquidity and manpower has hampered growth, affecting investment and production schedules of companies. There are post-COVID business imperatives are there, which is related to the technology. Recovery of Indian economy will largely depend upon adoption of appropriate measures, policy support to unconventional strategies. We have to understand the business sector better, find better imperatives. We have to estimate the demand supply position. We have to also take stock of the India's technology status, existing capacity, whether it is adequate or not adequate. We have to look at the depth and breadth of the foreign partnerships what we have, and we have to leverage our international relationships for better supply chain and alternate supply chains which are required in the event of the kind of crisis that has happened. So, as our Honorable Prime Minister has said, now the new mantra post-pandemic and during this period is self-reliance, Atmanirbhar, and that is what we have to say. Government of India has made tremendous input with respect to social security and structural reforms, and they have been appreciated across the globe. It has built ground for higher value addition and higher global value chain integration while cushioning the COVID-19 impact. Now we have
There has been a lag, sir. I think the basic takeaway of what Saraswat was telling us was that children have not been to schools and they've not seen playgrounds. So Ashutosh sir, I'd ask you to speak till he gets back. And he was also saying that the Google search on health and wellness has really gone viral, and telemedicine and teleconferencing are the order of the day. So would you like to add to this, sir? I think we've lost him. Maybe a power cut or something like that. We'll try and get him back.
Yes, indeed. I think Dr. Saraswat laid the roadmap, both about the processes that have happened during COVID-19 and as you come out of it. I think the most important thing that really COVID-19 has taught this generation, and in fact has taught in the last 100 years, is that adapting to change is the only constant. In other words, do we have the capacity to learn new things? Do we have capacity to adapt to the new normals, as they are called? and indeed to turn every crisis, every challenge into an opportunity. And indeed, all of that has happened with great speed, and all of it happened because there was a common purpose. There was a shared purpose. There was a clear purpose, and all of that basically made people work together, even those people who don't talk to each other normally. And I know, for example, that whether it is the support from the government, whether it is industry, which is always looking at the bottom line. Okay, of course, bottom line is important, and it has produced new bottom lines. It's just that we don't take risk, we don't get into new arenas. Even if there is opportunity, we wait for something catastrophic to happen to do that. And it has given a big push, whether it is academia, R&D labs, government, industry, startups working together with a common and shared vision and purpose. And that makes all the difference. I mean, that enthusiasm, that drive, that passion, which comes into people when there is basically a disruption of some kind. So now, why not make this disruption actually our new normal? That I think is the biggest message of the kind of catastrophe that the world is still suffering. We would certainly come out of it. But when we do come out of it, even after a decade or two, when we have forgotten about COVID 19 and maybe its lessons for the younger generation, many overarching challenges which are equally disruptive would remain. And how do we deal with these challenges? For example, the challenges of sustainable development. Right? The challenge is related to the rise of new exponential disruptive technologies like cyber physical systems, quantum technologies, the concerns about the green energy, concerns about water, concerns a whole lot of these things. So basically, it's about understanding and managing the lights and shadows of technology and going to the future, managing this with some insight, with some understanding, with proper actions really is a core. So this has an impact on everything that we do, whether it's about education in schools, is education in colleges, is skills development, the future of jobs, the future of personal life, the future of communication, computing, everything. So the future is going to be more and more about the convergence of technologies. Now, convergence of technologies, for example, we talked about cyber physical systems. What is a cyber physical systems? It's a bundle basically of communication, of perception, which is sensors, computing, decision making through artificial intelligence tools, and autonomous action based on that. For example, driverless cars, the unmanned vehicles that fly around, and all of that. So what I'm trying to drive at is basically that our education, our understanding, our learning has to be holistic, because it's not no longer about only one stream of knowledge. You call it physics, you call it chemical engineering, call it chemistry, biology, whatever you. They all have to converge together, which means highly multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary. It is to be done by a team of people. So, which means that we have to be also a team player in our science and technology with very clear goals. So, all of these are parts of larger learnings of COVID-19 period. And if we can imbibe all of this in our everyday life, in all our activities, then I think that we have basically come out of it stronger than when we went in. So when we went in, our processes of thinking were kind of slow, is what we call, business as usual, if you would. That the urgency of change, and that indeed we can be agents of change. That was not always clear to everybody in the business. So I think, as was pointed out by Dr. Saraswat, there have been personal tragedies. We have all paid a price for it. Some of us have paid a huge price for it. But the whole point is, all of that price should not go in vain. It's not like, okay, at the end of it, we come out the same way we went in, then we have gained nothing, we have lost everything. And I think this purpose, this understanding ought not to be lost, but they have to be integrated into everything that we do. So, Nidhi ji, do we have our guest, Dr. Saraswat, with us now?
So no, unfortunately,
Yeah,
because
okay.
of
Yeah. You know, we're talking about the lights and shadows of technology.
yes,
Lights
sir.
and shadows of technology. You see, every time there is a failure, we learn something from it. So make
So,
sure it does not happen again, right? The whole point is that the only failure is the one in which we have learned nothing. And I think that we can relate it to what happened today. We lost the link with our guest, Dr. Saraswat, and this is also true of the pandemic learnings as a whole, right? It's a human to fail. It is also machine to fail, and also machines and humans working together is going to be a very compelling theme for the future. We are seeing some part of it now, you see, from experience, because we don't know how to work with machines. And in fact, machines would have to learn with us too, through machine learning, through artificial intelligence. This is going to be such a fascinating area. You see, let me tell you something interesting. So this is going in future, let's say 10, 15 years from now, the whole lot of nature of job would be changing, right? So it is no longer about what I can do as an individual, but what I can do working with a machine. So the pair of things that are working together, me and my machine, what is it we can do together? What is it that we can deliver? How can we solve problems and so on? So therefore, the interface between humans and machine, the communication, the understanding, how to make use of all of this, that's going to be a very, very compelling aspect of learning in the future. And the
so
societies that would succeed are the ones who have mastered work with mastered their workings indeed, and to bring them in line with, and to design. Oh, this is fantastic. Sir,
thank
best
you
to
for
carry
joining us,
on
sir.
as you were away.
Thank you for
And
joining us,
right.
Dr. Saraswat. First question,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
you have your permission, sir, to start the first question. Also, you brought in a
Ma'am,
new
your voice is breaking, madam. Can you be
director.
hello?
Yes, sir. I'll say that again. So, a few questions are flashing on my screen right now for you. One is
Okay.
that you have brought new dimensions to the defense scenario. You spoke of the ambit and the canvas of everything. I really loved what you were speaking, sir. But a lot of people have this overarching need to ask you about defense. So, in the context of Agni 5, Shaurya, and the light combat aircraft Tejas and Arihant, what are your visions for, um, uh, these kind of missiles in the near future? What is your futuristic vision? As Ashutosh sir was sharing the
I
futuristic
thought
vision.
I had questions on what should be the pandemic, post-pandemic, or other side of pandemic, but you are taking me into defense here. But it's okay. See, India
No,
has
I think
developed major
we can first complete, sir. We can first complete that part about the pandemic and the post-pandemic, especially because this is of great interest to all listeners, and then we can come to the defense aspect.
Sir, if you could add the defense aspect, as
Yeah.
I was saying, sir.
I can answer any question, whichever you put, whether defense or pandemic, I have no problem. Please go ahead.
So they want to know the futuristic, clearances for light combat vehicles. What is going to be the nature of this kind of technology? We had Agni 5, Shaurya, and Tejas. To add to that, what would you like to say, sir? This question comes from Manoj from Banaras Hindu
See,
University.
again, your voice is breaking, madam. India has developed major technologies and products platforms to strengthen strategic defense scenario of the country. It has strength today, and we have come to a pedestal from where we can really do bargaining at the geopolitical platforms globally. Now is the time to strengthen our tactical defense capability by developing smarter systems using the today's disruptive technologies. For example, now we need more and more air defense systems, artillery systems, non-contact warfare systems, using the robotics, artificial intelligence, and data analytics, AR, VR, new sensors, new materials, which are going to give us our weapons, which are going to be required for the day-to-day warfare, a better teeth, and hence that's the need of the power. If we want to increase the self-reliance index, we have to again make sure that some of those things which we have been importing, they need to be introduced through the indigenous production. The new areas which are emerging today, which needs to be looked at by the defense research and the defense production agencies, are the hypersonic glide vehicles, the hypersonic missiles, defense against hypersonic missiles, hypersonic cruise missiles, and to top it all, I mentioned that in my talk also, the cyber defense capability, the unmanned combat systems with swarm of UAVs and swarm of ground vehicles and swarm of underwater vehicles. And we should also cross in the strategic sector as early as possible what is called the MIRV threshold. We should enter into the MIRV area as possible. What we are seeing that with these pandemics coming more and more, the biological threats are becoming more imminent. So there is a need for us to now focus on biological defense, and that should be our major requirement. And most important, for the trusted systems, command, control, communication, reconnaissance, surveillance, and so on, I think there's a need for us to go for smart and trusted indigenous systems, which will give us tremendous capability in the today's what we call as a network-centric warfare, which is emerging today. And most important, because we have all the time low intensity conflicts across the border, I think there are specific technologies which are required to be attended to, which will give us a better option, better capability to fight the LIC kind of an activity. I think I will stop here on this question because much can be said, but I think because of paucity of time, we'll stop here. Yeah,
Okay.
please go ahead.
So much for this wonderful answer. There is another question for you for on hypersonic. I'll take that later. So meanwhile, Ashutosh sir, there is one question coming in as how COVID-19 can perhaps act as a catalyst, for relearning and for change. So what would you like to say to that? This question.
Yeah, so it seems
Shalu of Jawaharlal Nehru
to me
University.
that I kind of already on that question.
Sir.
It seems to me I already talked a bit on that question while Dr. Saraswat was away. The whole point is, I think the overarching message in COVID-19 and its management has been our capacity to relearn, to learn as we go, and to adapt to changes as required. And so specific examples, of course, one can count in thousands. And my real hope is that as we come out of this pandemic, that we do not forget those. The fact of the matter is, just give you a personal example, in my department and office, we did twice as much work during this time as we used to do earlier. And so every challenge is indeed an opportunity. And we must not lose sight of that basic fact. We must not get too comfortable and must not start thinking that, there's a thing called fixed normal. And people still keep asking, when would we get back to the, old normal? No, we will never get back to the old normal. And I hope get back to the old normal. So that's the whole point. So we keep with us actually what is uplifting, what is empowering, what is going to bring muscle to us, what's going to bring speed, and be fully prepared to deal with it. I'll stop there.
Sir, Dr. Saraswat sir, the next question is that in 2008, when you were DG DRDO, you had hinted in the possibility of low-cost satellite launch vehicles like hypersonic cruise missiles. So what is your take now? This is from Ravish from Hindu College, Delhi, sir.
If you could recall, when we were talking 2008, we were talking of low-cost launch of satellites. And basically, hypersonic missile technology, hypersonic propulsion technology, particularly scramjet, was one of the vehicles for building such vehicle. We used to call them single stage to orbit or two stage to orbit, in which a hypersonic propulsion or a scramjet propulsion will be instrumental in reducing the cost and increasing the speed. Now this particular technology has dual roles. You can have the lower stage, the first stage of a launch vehicle, which is powered by a scramjet propulsion system, so you don't need additional propellant and thereby reducing the cost. And the upper stage can be a rocket which can take it outside the atmosphere. So that becomes a low cost launch vehicle. Technologically today India has advanced considerably in this. Both Department of Space and Department of DRDO recently have demonstrated the hypersonic propulsion technology, and we have become rather independent of the Western world as far as this part of the technology is concerned. So I have no doubt that today, at least in 2020, we can certainly go for hypersonic propulsion based launch vehicle for satellites. Now, since you have done a hypersonic propulsion system, the kind of test which DRDO demonstrated, where they have flown a hypersonic cruise missile at an altitude of 30 kilometers for 22 seconds, I think that can be extended into a full-fledged hypersonic cruise missile for variety of payload deliveries. That again gives you a great advantage. So this is a major area of technology which has been sort of broken through by the Indian scientists, where materials, the technologies of hypersonic aerodynamics, the aerodynamic heating problems, the propulsion problems, integration problems, all of them have been linked up, and today we are self-sufficient in that. I think that's a great achievement.
Thank you, sir, so much for answering that question. I hope you got your answer, Manoj. And now, Ashutosh, sir, there's a question for you. This is coming from Shivani, again from JNU. She says that DST is working for fast-changing future needs. Tell us more about cloud physician as a startup solution, sir.
Tell us about what?
Cloud physician. And it's supporting 17.
Okay, right. You see, this is actually part of the mission on cyber physical systems, which set up 25 hubs, which focus on many different aspects of the use of machines then by artificial intelligence or the digital technologies in all the different sectors. This particular thing is basically about telemedicine. So you know that not every place would have a specialist or super specialist who are dealing with ICU management, for example, which is a very specialized thing, but it's required for COVID-19 management of patients. So this is an example wherein some government hospital sitting in Leh Ladakh, ICU, treating COVID-19 patients. This is a very specialized job because you have to manage a strategy for ventilators, for example. So when you have a specialist who is getting all the vital information about the patient on a high definition channel, you also able to consult everything. Then it is possible to serve so many more patients in need in far-flung areas of the country. So this particular system has been made by a startup under one of the hubs. Now all 25 hubs of cyber physical systems have become fully active, and many of them have been contributing to the solutions of COVID-19. For example, in diagnostics, you see AI-based diagnostics is a very rapidly emerging area. It's already become almost as good as the best of doctors, whether it's radiologists and so on, because you can train a machine on diagnosis, just showing, for example, chest X-ray. You can tell so much about this, and we may not have radiologists in every little town or the sufficient number of them, but using these techniques and tools, you see that we can actually serve so many more people much more effectively. And that's the whole idea in artificial intelligence, in cyber physical systems. Sometimes people say it is going to reduce the number of jobs. I don't subscribe to that, because it may reduce certain kind of jobs, but it's going to open new opportunities. If you are able to reach people we cannot reach now, that produces new opportunity.
Correct. Yes.
And the stuff that you can is really amazing. And I think that this is going to open up new avenues of growth for the country.
So one more question, sir, from you, Dr. Saraswat. Um, DRDO has provided the technologies for societal benefits like solar power digesters, AHAR programs, and explosive detection kit diagnostic units for dengue and chikungunya. How can such programs further, be helped in like such like pandemics? This question comes from Diksha from Lady Shriram College, Delhi.
See, DRDO has a very strong team of scientists working on life sciences projects. And life sciences projects cover biomedical, bioengineering, right, and psychology, physiology. All kinds of subjects are being covered there. As part of this, in the biomedical engineering and biotechnology, there has been a lot of work done in the past. And even during the last this COVID-19, Dr. Ashutosh Sharma is privy to that, working along with DST, working along with the CSIR laboratories. DRDO has been able to provide a lot of systems like the ventilators and some of the PPE kits and some of the other sanitizers and masks and variety of things, technologies thereof. In fact, I'll give you a simple story. I think when we were all struggling for ventilators to be available, and we realized that in India the ventilator production is a question mark. It was DRDO's technology of 2006 or 7 which was transferred to one of the companies in Coimbatore, Pricol, where we made a very simple ventilator at that time. That was actually later on second and transferred, third and transferred to a company in Mysore, and that company has actually blossomed into an export unit. But it was not supplying any units to Indian hospitals. So when we discovered where it has happened, we could revive the entire process, and with the help of all the CSIR and DST labs and the Indian industry, all the parts of that which were being imported by that company could be designed, developed, and manufactured in those just about few months. And then today we have a regular supply of that ventilator from Bharat Electronics, joining hands with that private industry and providing more than 5,000, 6,000 ventilators and things like that. So this is the kind of strength which is available. It has been demonstrated, and today we can do number of things as far as the biotechnology and life sciences projects are concerned, because it is the core strength of it. For example, the dengue testing kit or the chikungunya testing kit, they were all developed as part of this program. Actually, this was all started because DRDO was working on chemical and biological and radiological and nuclear warfare programs, in which protection against radiations, protection of the soldiers against biological warfare agents, protection of the soldiers against chemical warfare agents, all that has to be studied. And even the psychology of the soldiers when they work on high altitudes, how their agility. So all this has made them to develop these technologies, and they have got lateral advantages, collateral advantages, and that's why they are able to contribute to today's pandemic. And I'm sure they can do it better for many other things which will be required in future.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for enlightening us on all this that has been done by DRDO. Mammoth work indeed. Ashutosh sir, one more question for you this time. The DST supported hub of cyber physical systems is also building a data setu and a data management system called Bhasha Setu. How would this help us to understand the nature of pandemics? This is from Rani Christ College, Bangalore.
Yeah, so let me first add that what Dr. Saraswat said, that there are two very, very important things which were said. This is about Bhasha Setu. I'm translating in a sense what he said. So the first one is about, look, when you have a new challenge, when you have a new opportunity, when you have a new crisis, the solutions to it are built on the foundations of what you had previously, which is your knowledge base, which is your infrastructure base, which is your human resources. So all of this, otherwise overnight you cannot do nothing. So basically, unless you have the right matrix of knowledge, infrastructure, and human resources, which is why it is so important to have that actually ready at different stages, both in basic sciences, in applied sciences, in technology, in mission. The second aspect is once you have these knowledge infrastructure and human resources, the leadership is all about repurposing them, is to give them a new twist, a new direction. And that was very well done during the time of COVID-19 because of the common shared purpose and vision. Okay, so this is very, very essential that we do not neglect making strong foundations based on which the challenges of future could be addressed adequately. The second aspect,
Sir.
so that the question you were asking is also related to artificial intelligence and machine learning. See, one of the very major challenge in a country like India, which is multilingual, is about people understanding each other, people conversing very freely with each other, maybe even doing that in real time. So Bhasha Setu is all about that. Is basically making use of artificial intelligence. You may be speaking Marathi. I am speaking Bengali, and then in real time understand each other about what is being said. And it is not just literal translation. This actually it depends on the context, which is why that this is a very profound area in which how do you translate what I'm saying like a human translator. So Bhasha Setu is both about text-based translation, and it's also about as we speak, translating that. And imagine the kind of benefit that this would actually bring the entire nation. Because we are divided because of this language issues. Is called lost in translation, both literally and metaphorically. So we must bridge this gap about lost in translation syndrome and the losses that it cost us as a nation. So that's about Bhasha Setu. The data Setu is all about how do you manage data. Data is the new raw material. Sometimes people say data is the new fuel for Industry 4.0. Sometimes people say data is the new water. I say that. I have not heard anybody else say that. But anyway, I have not explained that as to why I say that. But anyway, data is a new raw material based on which everything is going to be built. So now, how do you manage data? The creation of data, the curation of data, putting data in a form which becomes useful and portable. And then what about the ownership of data? What about security of data? What about localization of data? What about building on data? So all of these are the questions which center around managing data, putting it into use, and the data setu, making use of artificial intelligence is part of that solution. I'm done.
Sir. Thank you so much, sir, for answering that question. Dr. Saraswat, one last question from you. This is also related to data only. As sir said, we are exploring new frontiers of data with the help of Data Setu in DST. So this question is, your pioneering efforts have led place to the development of information security in India. Saraswat sir, could you elaborate how this could be a game changer? This comes to you from Shiv
Can you
from I.
repeat? We lost you. We lost your communication, madam. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, sir. This question is coming from Shiv from IIT Mumbai, and he's asking you, sir, that your pioneering efforts have led to the information security in India. Can you elaborate on how this perhaps could be a game changer?
Sir, I think the question is about information security and how that can be a game changer.
So,
Yeah, as I mentioned to you today, it's a Dr. Professor Ashok Sharma mentioned about data. We all talked about digitalization. We talked about more and more communication, information sharing, information is becoming the new kind of a tool. Now, obviously, when such a vast platform is being generated across, the security of that platform, the communication, information, privacy, security becomes a major issue. And so, information, when it can be made use of for economic gain, for human development, it can also be otherwise used for waging a warfare, creating problems to you by the enemy. So information warfare is as relevant as any other warfare today. Data stealing is as relevant as data usage today. So it is important that all this requires information security as a major pillar of technology that has to be developed. We knew this because in the defense, we had already entered into what was called what is network-centric warfare, which was largely dependent upon communication networks, command control communication networks, which were working on various electronic platforms, and hence the security of data, the security of information from external attacks was very important. People should not steal away your messages, and enemy should not get benefited, or they should not do some malware into my system, thereby putting my system into jeopardy. So this kind of a defense mechanism was developed in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7 when we were working in defense, and even today it is being done. That's why we call it cryptography and cryptanalysis. All these tools were being done, not today, they have been going on in the defense for last about 25, 30 years. But in the civilian domain, its importance has become much more relevant because in last 15 years, information technology has really become the order of the day. So information security becomes the tool. And as a result, today, the technology for cybersecurity, its development in all dimensions is very important. Now, it has multiple dimensions. It has a hardware dimension, it has a software dimension, it has a network dimension, and it has got the basic physics and mathematics and statistics dimension, which all find solution thereof. So this is a complete gamut of various areas which have to be perfected to find a solution, so that your critical economic infrastructure, whether it is a rail network or it is a communication network or your banking system or your education system or your power grid, all of them are working safely, or your governance network which is working today, working safely. So information security is the order of the day. Unfortunately, in India, we even today do not have adequate human resources for providing the right amount of coverage, and technologies are being developed by various academic institutions, industry, but I think we still need to augment it to a level so that we can really take care of all the threats which are emerging today. They are coming from different directions, and hence we have to have large number of trained manpower in cyber security and information warfare. And that is where the Department of Science and Technology, Department of CSIR, DRDO, Space, everybody is working. Today, cyber security, information security are the most important requirements where all of us have to put our head together to make us more and more competent and make us robust.
Thank you so much. That was indeed beautifully answered. I'm sure you got your point, Shalu, as you asked this question. With this, we come to an end of the question answer round. I thank you.
Nidhi ji, because you lost some time, during the thing because of the link disruptions. It would be all right even if you were to ask Dr. Saraswat few more questions if you
Yes,
had
sir.
them.
Sir, I'll do that.
Because it's not every day that we would actually be on this platform.
Yes,
so for the benefit of
absolutely,
the
sir.
viewers, I mean, whoever
Yes.
can't stay with us can go away. But if we can, carry this on conversation a little bit
Yes, sir.
longer, I think that this would be of use.
Sir, the next question to you, Dr. Saraswat, is about futuristic technology, Center for High Energy Laser and Microwave Devices, biomedical research, like you mentioned, teleconferencing and all of that, and advanced aerospace combustion. So somebody wants you to elaborate on this, and this person's name is Suman from St. Xavier's, Mumbai. She wants you to tell us about the futuristic energy, laser, microwave, biomedical, and aerospace combustion systems. Sir.
Yeah, I think it's a very wide subject, but I can only say that laser technology is something which is making a tremendous role both in the military domain, civilian domain, medical domain, and everywhere. Laser is the in thing today. Like we have got the data, I think it is the same thing is happening at the non-contact warfare is the order of the day, or the kinetic energy kill is the order of the day, where you are going to attack with the speed of the sound, speed of the light, and you will be in a position to do the damage from a remote distance. That's why DRDO created a center for high power lasers, which can develop high power laser using solid state fiber lasers, so the disc lasers or carbon dioxide lasers, and package them into beams which can actually attack the targets of different hardness and different human targets, material targets, and so on. This is one area which is actually requiring a tremendous amount of work, both in the terms of laser physics and also laser electronics, optics, and integration of the nano optics and the silicon photonics and all of them put together. For this, we have opened this center chest called in Hyderabad, where the weaponization of the laser-based systems is taking place. Today we have actually put synergy among the three major departments of the government of India: the Department of Atomic Energy, the Department of DRDO, and our science and technology centers in the country, who are working to developing indigenous methods of producing lasers, collimating lasers, and combining laser power for creating the required power. And new materials which are required for doing this are also being studied. So there's a whole gamut of things, and the younger generation certainly has to play a major role. The person who is asking this question, I will urge upon them that they should certainly take up this as one of their area of interest.
Thank you,
You have
sir.
also asked something about some combustion center. Combustion, while on the one side we are talking of moving over to electric vehicles and so on, but on the other side we also have a requirement for energy transition. The energy transition which is taking place today from fossil fuels to the non polluting energy methods, like the renewable energy, certainly requires the ways and means of improving the combustion of the fossil fuels so that you can reduce the carbon emissions. To keep this in mind, the new technologies like gasification of coal, methane reforming, and many other of these things which can give some clean fuels are being developed. And for this, we opened centers along with Department of Science and Technology at IIT Chennai, and also at ISC Bangalore, combustion research centers, and it was between DRDO and DST at that time. And these two centers are performing very well for developing the advanced combustion technologies for gasification of coal and steam methane reforming, and also from this gasified coal to produce alternate fuels like methanol, ammonia, which can be used for fertilizers. And more to top it all, in this, the major role which is going to be played is by the renewable energy. Energy will be taken from the renewable sources. So it will give you net carbon neutrality. And things like collection of carbon dioxide and then converting carbon dioxide with hydrogen into a fuel is another area which is being done by these centers. So these centers are premier centers today, which are doing work on advanced combustion for different class of fuels, different class of devices, and they are actually going to make major difference as far as the energy transition is concerned. So this is as far as the advanced combustion is concerned. What was the third one? I forgot. Can you remind me?
Aerospace, sir. Aerospace.
Aerospace is a very vast subject, madam. You will appreciate that space, of course, we have major program in the country, including all the larger satellites, small satellites, and also the launch vehicles, GSLV 1, 2, 3. But most important thing which is emerging there also is a low-cost launch vehicle system. And low-cost launch vehicle system is coming out not purely by the efforts of the Department of Space, but by the policy initiative of the Government of India, which has taken place today, of bringing in more and more industry participation in the development of the aerospace. The new policy of the government of India for privatization of space and making the space facilities available to the private sector for testing, evaluation, and also using the launch sites and so on are going in a big way. In fact, there are about 4 or 5 of the startups I know who have started building their own launch vehicles today, and probably they will make use of this new government of India initiative. Of course, we are not at par in the privatization with the Western world, where we have got now Elon Musk and others who are doing SpaceX and things like that. But I think we are in the right direction. So that is a space activity. When you come to the aircraft, after having developed Tejas, I think there is a major initiative now to build the stealth aircraft in the country, to build the unmanned combat aircraft in the country, to also build the propulsion systems which are required for these aircrafts in the country. And that is where the DRDO and the NAL, the CSIR laboratory, and other academic institutions are jointly working together to make major breakthroughs in the stealth technology, which will make our aircraft equal to the F-22 and things like that. So there's a huge amount of work in the aerospace area, both in terms of materials, in terms of propulsion, in terms of manufacturing technologies, and the new technologies which are emerging like 3D printing and additive manufacturing. All of them will certainly go and find application through the Industry 4.0 in the new generation of the aerospace manufacturing. That will make us competitive, and that will also bring in a lot of employment for our people, because these are the new avenues which will cover a vast number of industries, and they will bring a large number of people to work together. I think this is a becoming area. Investments are coming. Foreign partnerships are coming, because we have Rafale program through which it will come. We have other programs through which it will come. So it's a very vast area which is emerging, and I think more and more youngsters, more and more people should participate and make it a success.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So one question coming up for you now, Ashutosh sir, about AI once again. Saying that it will strengthen application. How do we strengthen this package for astrophysics and computational chemistry? Can you tell us a little more on how AI could develop more? This is the question that has been flashing now on the screen, sir. To add to what, sir,
we can request Dr. Saraswat. He's been the champion of also National Supercomputing
sir,
mission, which is now setting 12 supercomputers. And I should also say that is probably the first time that one of the computers from India is in the list of top 100 supercomputers in the world at place of 63. But it's going to go up very, very quickly. And so you may ask Dr. Saraswat about this question.
So tell us, if you can, what do you see about super computers and AI technology?
Artificial intelligence today is becoming all pervasive, because this is one area where you are going to really make use of the available background data what is available. You are going to work on the relationships, correlations, finding out relationships in the data. You will be able to establish what is called the behavioral pattern. From the behavioral pattern, you should be able to make predictions, and that prediction is basically the process by which you apply the behavioral pattern to predict the future and predict activity. This is in a very small sense how the artificial intelligence comes. But then the future, the way the artificial intelligence is growing, it is becoming more and more smart. That means the cognitive functions what our brain has got, those functions are also going to get slowly introduced into that. That means the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of what our eyes can see and perceive and then decipher the emotions which are happening today. Now, this is the direction in which the artificial intelligence will go. And ultimately, you will train the system or the computer, what Professor Ashutosh Sharma was telling, in such a manner that that computer itself will be able to train another device, another computer, to do a certain functions which like the other machine was doing. doing. So this is called, machine to machine transmission, and then collaborative mode in which the robots can work tomorrow using this artificial intelligence technique. So cobots, robots, all of them will follow the artificial intelligence technologies, where machines will talk to each other, machines will work with each other, and follow the artificial principle. Second thing is, if you look at the diagnostics, as we have seen in the case of medical. Now, what Professor Ashutosh Sharma was mentioning, that we have an image of the lung, and we are saying that you are COVID positive or COVID negative. Now, this can be done by a specialist person. But then if I have the artificial intelligence tools which are based upon thousands of images which have been taken, and based upon that, I have done what is called a set of rules which define positive and negative COVID, so on, so on, then the whole process of diagnostics becomes very easy. So this is where the AI will come in, which will make diagnostics much and more simpler. Same thing will happen in maintenance procedures, same thing will happen in identification of faults, same thing will happen in predicting in the policy measures, whether this particular policy which we are making today, taking the behavior of the population, taking the behavior of the society data from there, then we put in the policy attributes into that data and see how the propagation of that policy will modulate that data to do the behavioral change in that particular system. So this is the way artificial intelligence is going to actually work. Now, this is based upon not just data, but there are certain statistical tools, there are certain physical rules which are going to integrate all of them. So that's where computation becomes very important. So AI-based computers, what Professor Ashutosh Sharma was mentioning, what we have done today, and we have come now among the first 100 in the country. That kind of AI-based computing is becoming a next order of the day. In the earlier time, we had only number-based computing. Now, AI-based computing is going to be slightly different, and that's why CPU intensive and AI intensive together will work as the next generation of computers to solve the problems of artificial intelligence. The speeds will become 10 times, 15 times better than the today's system of computing. So that is what is going to happen in the domain of artificial intelligence. There are many things which we can talk, but this is an area which is ultimately going to go what is called artificial general intelligence. That means you don't need a human brain. Everything can be done by the robots using the same faculties as what we have in the brain for perception, cognition, and understanding, and carrying out the functions like the brain functions today in a much better way, probably.
Absolutely, sir. And this is indeed a futuristic vision of India that you have shared today. And with this, we come to an end of the question answer round, sir. I thank Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary DST, and our esteemed keynote speaker for today, VK Saraswat, and request you for round two, sir, because of whatever technology problems or whatever, you had gone away for some time. But we need to close now due to paucity of time. I thank the audience for watching.
And why do you need to close now? Who has paucity of time? I mean, if you can tell me that. Do you have another program lined up now?
No, sir, not at all. Not at all.
No. Oh, you can look. Nidhi ji, you are very used to DD programs like TV, so you have to stop at a particular.
We'll carry on till you say stop. I
No, here. My practice as a professor has always been.
I can see some more questions coming up.
Let me tell you this joke.
You, sir.
Let me complete this joke. Me as a professor, my practice has been when the last student has left the class, I also leave the class. So no problem with that.
Carrying on, sir. I have a few more questions. This one is for you, Ashutosh, sir.
I just wanted to very quickly add, this is the artificial intelligence is all about looking for a needle in a haystack, which humans are not very good at doing, because you have to sift through trillions of data in order to arrive at a pattern. And machines are so good at it, what it would take a lifetime, or it would take 1 million lifetimes for certain tasks. This computer with AI can do in milliseconds. Now, we already know it's been a couple of decades that the world chess champion lost to a computer, an IBM computer. But that's not the end of it. Now there was a new computer which is driven by AI. The computer is driven by grandmasters and their experience, their accumulated experience of the entire history of mankind. But the new computer learned chess on its own, and it beat the old computer very easily. Because this is driven by artificial intelligence, the old one was driven by the accumulated wisdom of the mankind. So you understand what kind of disruption it is going to cause. We no longer can take pride in saying that, look, we play the best chess. So it has to really, you see, the overarching of the mankind going in the future is what is the meaning of creativity? What is the meaning of cognition? What is the meaning of intelligence? What is the meaning of awareness? And in fact, what exactly, where do humans have an edge? So when you can answer that question, that defines your new paradigm for education. That defines your new paradigm for skills and everything else. And this is the most fundamental question about how actually humans would compete with machines. Machines which are thinking, which can take autonomous action, and so on. What is the meaning of being human? It has both a philosophical meaning and it has a technical or technology meaning. And both of them have to be figured out sooner than later. Right. So please ask more questions to Dr. Saraswat because, like I said, it's a unique opportunity. And if he doesn't have a program in the next 10 minutes, then I think we can request him
Sir, the next
to
question for
answer
you,
more
sir.
of your questions.
I'm asking, sir. Sir, according to you, does India need to focus on small satellites and its related technologies? What generic term do we use to refer to satellites that weigh less than 500 kgs? And how would this help India? Sir.
You see, satellite technology is really transforming from large satellites, what we have seen in the past, located in the geostationary orbits, to very small nano, pico, micro satellites. And they are all in the category of small satellites, where starting for a few grams to up to about 150 to 200 kilograms, you put them in the bracket of small satellite category. So these satellites are basically useful today because they can do some dedicated functions at low cost for small duration of time. So their launching costs are small, their cost of deployment is small, their maintenance cost is small. Of course, their lifetime is also small as compared to the large satellites. Now, they can do multiple functions. They can be useful for a very local area. They can be useful for communication. They can be useful for military applications, for surveillance and things like that. They can also be used for what is called aided navigation. So small satellites have a major role today. Both for societal applications like agriculture, remote sensing, and geological surveys and things like that, and also for communication and things like that. So small satellites can also do what is called formation flying. They can fly in a formation. And with this formation flying, their availability to the user on the ground becomes almost continuous. Otherwise, a satellite has a particular time period and you get pictures on a particular location only at a definite time. So when you do this formation flying, you have got a much better coverage and so on. In terms of cost, because they are smaller, they are cheaper, they can be made use of using the commercial components and devices. So easily you can do that. And the technology has become so easily understandable and available that today in India, at least about 25 to 30 university students at any point in time are building small satellites. And fortunately, Department of Space has been able to provide the launch vehicles. So they have been able to piggy ride on some of the major missions of the Department of Space. And now, once this small, what is called low-cost launch vehicle is available, I'm sure the small satellite launch will become the order of the day. The market-wise, if you look at a small satellite market globally, is growing very, very exponentially today. It is not, no more people are spending time on building large satellites. Large satellites have still a role, but the small satellites are going to replace most of the functions tomorrow.
So the next question is that when can we have a Elon Musk space station, perhaps, made by DRDO? This is just come in flashing. Since you had mentioned his name,
DRDO does not make space stations. Yes, Department of Space. Yes, we have. We have a program. Actually, we have a. You know that after our moon mission, the next program is basically to put the man on the on moon. Human space flight. The space stations will come only after you have perfected the human space flight, because space station is made for human to go and live there and carry out certain activities which are related to technology, which are related to scientific experiments, which are related to understanding the behavior of material and other things in the space. As far as I'm concerned, technologically, setting up a space station is not a big problem. But it basically, you have to see, because after all, space station is also nothing but a kind of a satellite, which is actually positioned at a particular location and rotating. So now we need to actually know what is the kind of space station and what functions it will do and design. And there are, of course, technologies which are very relevant to space stations, what is called rendezvousing technologies, where the spacecraft goes and attaches to the space station, then the man and material are transferred into it and so on. Now, these are the technologies which needs to be perfected. And as far as India is concerned, it is not right now in the priority of schemes as far as India is concerned. Our priority is today manned mission, and then also augmenting our satellite capabilities for the variety of functions for which we need. But certainly we will also have a space station program which will be taken up by the Department of Space. And once such a program of this nature takes up, the complete scientific community in the country gets engaged into it. The academic institutions, the physicists, the mathematicians, the industry, all of them will come into picture. And with the new startups which have come today in the space area, I'm sure this will certainly happen one day. If not in the government sector, even the private sector slowly, like what can Elon Musk can do in US, I'm sure there will be Indian Elon Musk tomorrow who will be able to now do a launch its own satellite and maybe launch a space station. But maybe about 20 years from now, that kind of a time scale I'm thinking of.
Wonderful. Sir, in addition to that, they're asking how this would perhaps impact agricultural policies in India. And how do you look at that now? We need to produce more, or do you think we need to produce better crop? How would this make a conscious development in, across the demography of India, if we look at it? Because, somewhere we have, in Maharashtra, we're growing sugarcane, and all of that is also happening. You are at policy making in Niti Aayog, so you're privy to all of that. So how could this perhaps impact agricultural policy again, in your view?
Are you talking with respect to the space technology, or you are talking agriculture policy in general?
Agriculture policy in general, sir.
See, agriculture, you have seen what is happening today. We have today self-sufficiency as far as the food products, food grains are concerned. You know that. I think we have enough store and we have enough stock in the country. But there are certain areas where we still import a lot of things. For example, edible oils we import. Our edible oil is large. So the oil seeds is a major problem. Like that, there are many sectors in agriculture we still import, and that should be our focus. As far as the competitiveness is concerned, while we are self-sufficient in agriculture, the competitiveness wise, still we are not competitive globally, because our per hectare yield is not comparable to the best in the world. It is about 1/5 of what the best are doing. So what America can do, or what Brazil can do, or what others can do, we are doing 1/5. So agriculture has to go for improving the productivity, so that, because the land mass is decreasing today, population is increasing, to the agricultural land is also going to decrease. So it is important for us today that we have to improve our productivity to sustain the future generation of the requirement. So among the sustainability goals of the country, the what we call as the food for all in 2050 for a global world population of something like 9 billion. That is the goal SDG has got. For India, whose population by 2050 maybe about maybe 2 billion or something. So we will also have to gear up for that with reduced land. As a result, productivity. In this, the new technologies are emerging. We have done, as part of our white revolution, what is called flooded agriculture. That means we use hell of a lot of water, we use a hell of a lot of fertilizer, we use large number of pesticides. Now that has improved the yield and we have become self-sufficient, but it has had its impact on the water requirement. It has had impact on the soil, and soil has become full of chemicals, and that has also reduced its productivity and so on. Now, as a result, now the next generation sustainable agriculture with modern technologies like precision agriculture is what is the order of the day. So now we are looking at ways and means of introducing new crops, new methods, new technologies, new seeds. And that is where, when I mentioned the genetically modified crops and genetically edited crops, they are going to be the major requirement. Of course, there's a debate on these issues, and many people do not feel that GM can be the right approach. But as a scientist, I would say that GM and GE should be done in such a manner that it does not have any adverse impact. The biggest adverse impact which has been seen of GM and GE was basically with respect to the regeneration of the seeds. As a result, you were dependent on a factory which was producing seeds all the time, and that means you became like a slave to Monsanto or somebody. Now this has been now curtailed. As a result, the seed can also be regenerated, and hence you should be in a position to do that. Second effect of that was that it used to cause what is called damage to the adjacent crop. So the antibiotic effect. So many of these things scientists have solved, and we should take a very pragmatic and scientific view about adopting GM and G in our country rather than getting into controversies. Precision agriculture has to be brought in, nanotechnologies have to be brought in for fertilizers and things like that. And these are the policies in which the Niti Aayog has been proposing that we should get into the new generation of agriculture technologies, which is certainly supported by our Institute of ICAR and things like that, who have done human work as far as the new areas are concerned. And I'm sure the oil seed, which I mentioned to you, should become our priority in the years to come. So agriculture is one area where our policy initiatives will certainly spur the farmers. In fact, the market reforms which the country has now given is certainly to bring less distress to the farmer and make their product more marketable. So that is going to help in a big way.
If we can actually make them understand, which we are trying to do, and if we notice, sir, in this movement and this protest of farmers, I think the farmers are only coming from Punjab and Haryana. They're not coming from all across India. So we need to speculate on that as well. Vandana from NIIT wants to ask you, sir, about pollutants in rivers. How can we save our rivers, sir? This is one question that has been flashing again and again.
See, as far as the pollution is concerned, I would put it this way. There are three major elements to the pollution. One is pollution. Should you pollute? Should you create pollutants first?
Ji.
First is the question is, should you create pollutants? There are at times that, yes, pollutants will get created. But then if you are creating pollutants, you should be in the knowledge, yes, I know that I am creating pollutants. Then what should I do with those pollutants that I am creating, because it is going to be harmful to the society. So pollution mitigation program. And third one is the cultural awareness that pollution is bad for you. These are the three elements which are important for pollution to be controlled. We all know that one of the major reasons why our rivers are getting polluted are mainly because we create pollutants right from the domestic sewerage, kitchen waste to our toilets, and also the industrial waste which get generated. The effluents go into the rivers, the drainage goes into the rivers, and things like that. And even some of the solid waste which is being accumulated through variety of misuse like plastics and so on, everything is dumped into the river through a drainage. Now this is the kind of thing which is man-made. I would say 90% of our pollutants are man-made. So one of the major thing is to change, bring a cultural change for containing the pollution and distributing the pollutants or the effluents which are there, treating them locally rather than dumping into the rivers. This is the only way you can stop this. The people keep saying that suppose we take the plan of Ganga cleaning. We know that Ganga cleaning right from Rishikesh down to say Kanpur or whatever that place. We have maybe thousands of drainage from every city is getting into Ganga. The leather industry is putting all the effluents at Kanpur and other places in Ganga. Now we have measures to carry out. So first thing is to stop all the drainage getting into the rivers. The drainage should not get into the rivers. What should be sent into the rivers is the clean water. That's the only water, because that is the water you have taken from them. So you can't afford to put that. So effluent control, effluent mitigation, effluent treatment should be our priority, and that should be and not to produce effluent to the extent we can is the responsibility of every individual. So cultural change, education, policies for and technology, all of them put together, if we can deploy in a cohesive manner through an approach which is human-centric approach, not just central-centric approach that control government will control pollution into. No, each one of us have to control that. Each one of us has to play a role, and the technology has to play a role. The state governments have to provide the drainage system and the cleaning systems. Industry has to become more responsible for putting the effluent treatment plants in the system. Then only we can avoid the pollution of our rivers. Otherwise, if you do not take those measures, rivers will continue to get polluted, because that is the way it has happened. We never bothered about what is the impact of that. We thought it was thousands and thousands of liters of water flowing every second. So how does it make my few milligrams of water going into it? That kind of misunderstanding we had. But then 1 milligram coming from you, from 1.2 billion people coming, you can imagine what is the amount of that milligram coming. So, this is the kind of thing which one has to understand to control the pollution in the country.
बिल्कुल जैसे आपने कहा सर, जहरीली हवा के साथ साथ जहरीला पानी भी होता जा रहा है, एंड हर चीज सरकार पे नहीं छोड़नी है, समाज क्या करेगा। एक आखिरी सवाल आपसे लेना चाहती हूँ मैं, हाउ डू यू लुक एट द वायरस अटैक्स इन फ्यूचर?
Madam, your voice is breaking. Your voice is
How
breaking.
do you look at virus attacks in future, if any, sir? This question is coming from Shubham, St. Xavier's, Mumbai. आपका क्या मानना है?
I missed the first part of your question.
How
Can you
virus
repeat?
attacks or pandemics like COVID-19 in future, sir?
In fact, on this subject, I have spoken earlier also.
It's breaking up.
I am of the opinion that if you look at the last about 25 years, the frequency at which the viral attacks are taking place is increasing. This frequency was not so much about 25 years back, but in the last 25 years, starting from the various types of viruses, we had Zika virus, we had avian flu, we had this many, then we had other things like chikungunya, dengue, and all. All these viruses have been coming at a much higher frequency. Now we should learn some lessons from that. We have, as a medical science, we have been able to handle the bacteria much better. We have understood the way the bacteria infects the body, and we are, thanks to the broad spectrum antibiotics which got developed right from penicillin invention to the next 4th generation of antibiotics which are available today, we have a huge set of processes by which we are able to control the bacterial diseases. But when it comes down to viral, the virology as a subject, I think our understanding, our insight into the research in this area, and also the mitigation programs, our success has not been very significant. And I perceive that the viral attacks will continue to increase in future. This is going to be, I do not want to get into a controversy whether virus COVID is a man-made or it is a natural virus, but certainly it is a virus which has shown through its features that it is a complex sum of large number of other viruses which have depicted different attributes, and some of them are present in this particular virus also. So it gives an indication that either through the natural process or through the man-made process, the viruses are going to become more and more complicated. So it becomes very important for us to understand the complete, science behind the attack of virus, how it functions, like we have been able to understand now with the COVID. And thanks to the scientists of the country as well as to the world, we were able to understand the whole process much faster. And luckily, we got help globally also, although the data from China came late. But all the same, once it came, our scientists started working and they have found out what is the riddle. I personally believe that the time has come for us, knowing that these virus attacks will be more in future, knowing that it can lead to pandemics of this kind. I think our effort on understanding this particular area needs to be increased in a much. That's why I've been suggesting that India should develop more and more BSL-4 kind of facilities where virological research can be done in a much more strengthened manner. More and more scientists from like CCMB or a variety of laboratories of CSIR or from ICMR or from DST institutions, they all should now focus into viral research in a big way, because this is going to be part of the, in other words, I would say what I used to call in DRDO days biological warfare. I don't want to use the word warfare because it has a military connotation, but I say biological attacks, which will come like the disaster management due to floods and climate things. The biological attacks on the human population are going to be a major problem in future, and hence we have to be prepared with respect to greater research, greater insight, greater mitigation programs, and even detection and mitigation all put together in a holistic manner.
जी बिल्कुल। और इसी के साथ मैं आपका शुक्रिया करती हूँ यहाँ आने के लिए। हम बहुत गौरवान्वित हुए सर, आपका साथ मिला और आपने इतना टाइम स्पेंड किया। आई थैंक Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary DST, and our esteemed keynote speaker, for sharing his vision on the other side of the pandemic. And we request you, sir, to join us again in future. We were very, very impacted and with your insightful knowledge that you shared. Now, I thank the audience for watching. And as we look to rebuild our economy, let's dare to dream, friends, of a more hopeful, of a wiser future. Post-COVID-19, hopefully people will emerge to be more conscious and about the climate, environment, and the harm being caused by pollutants, and not lose sight of these in our efforts to rebuild the economy. COVID-19 has truly been a watershed moment in our history to ignite the innovative spirit and strengthening New India or Naya Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bharat. On that note, friends, this is a wrap on this edition of DST Series 6. As we firmly sign off and bring this program to an end, I request you to please rise for the national.
Nidhi, I just add one sentence because this is so important. We have been talking about COVID-19 teaching us new things, turning challenges into opportunities. In fact, this session is an example of that. So I would leave you with the thought that there was a challenge, we lost some time, but you see, we not only made up for that, but we injected some new elements in it, which even may be more interesting, right? So never think that only failure is the one from which we have learned nothing, and the only crisis has been the one that has not produced a new opportunity. And this session, I'm so glad, has been an example of that. So you should innovate as you go. Thank you very much indeed for conducting this session.
Sir, you promised, and this is live. You're coming again, and we're going to get you again on this. Thank you so much, sir. Let's please rise for
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा। विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा। तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे। गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।